just exposed the fact that he played a part.
When Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts joked about DeWanna Bonner being their third time's a charm signing and casually mentioned Alyssa Thomas helping make it happen, the internet exploded. Those few seconds of footage flipped the entire WNBA narrative on its head. Was this just an innocent reunion, or proof that Phoenix had planned Bonner's exit from the Fever all along? Let's break down the clip that Indiana Fever fans are calling proof that Bonner and the Mercury scammed Indiana. Do you think Phoenix and Bonner should be investigated? Let us know in the comments below.
Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts.
At first, the Fever's front office believed they had pulled off the perfect blend of youth and experience. DeWanna Bonner, a two-time champion, was supposed to be the steady veteran presence to help Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston transition from promise to power. The talk around training camp centered on leadership. Reporters called Bonner the missing piece, a mentor who could bring stability through the grind of a long season. For a franchise trying to turn the chaos of growing pains into a playoff push, she looked like a safe bet. The preseason buzz was that Bonner's guidance would fast-track team chemistry and help Clark adjust to the WNBA's rhythm under the wing of a proven professional.
Mercury should be under investigation for tampering. You should be under investigation.
That optimism barely lasted a month. Just 9 games into the experiment, Bonner wanted out. She demanded a trade and then was waived. The turnaround was so abrupt that even Fever insiders were caught off guard. Local reports floated the idea of fit issues, suggesting that Bonner's style didn't mesh with Indiana's up-tempo flow or Clark's pace-heavy offense. But fans weren't buying it. On social media, accusations started flying. This wasn't about fit, it was about finesse. Fans claimed Bonner had used the Fever to collect a paycheck, keep her stats visible, and then slip right back into the arms of a franchise that had been circling her all along.
Let's get right into it, man. DeWanna Bonner should be under investigation.
The team's official statement sounded routine, but the silence from Bonner herself was louder than anything else. Her only words were, "Despite our shared goals and excitement heading into the season, I felt the fit did not work out, and I appreciate the organization's willingness to grant my request to move on, particularly at this point in my career." Then she vanished. No goodbye to teammates, no video tribute, not even a post thanking the fans. For someone who had been promoted as a mentor and leader, her exit felt cold, calculated, even rehearsed.
She lost her starting job to Lexi Hall, so she threw a hissy fit and forced her way out.
By that point, fans had already begun connecting the dots back to Phoenix. Online threads lit up with speculation, digging into every possible hint of communication between the Mercury and Bonner, calling it tampering long before anyone in the league office dared to use the word. Some pointed to her brief stint on the bench and that mysterious personal leave as proof that her heart, and maybe her loyalty, was already elsewhere. Each new clue made the story messier, but also more believable. As frustration boiled over in Fever circles, the narrative shifted. This didn't look like front office incompetence anymore, it looked like betrayal. Then came the leaked clip of Nate Tibbetts, and suddenly those so-called conspiracy theories didn't sound so far-fetched after all.
It was twice, third time is a charm.
The clip itself wasn't long, just a few seconds of post-game chatter from Phoenix Mercury head coach Nate Tibbetts, but those seconds carried serious weight. With a grin on his face, Tibbetts said, "Luckily, the last 2 off-seasons we've tried to get DB to come back to Phoenix. Unfortunately, she didn't pick us twice. Third time's a charm. I think Alyssa Thomas helped in that a little bit." That last line, "Alyssa Thomas helped in that a little bit," was the one that lit the fuse. It wasn't rumor anymore. It was their own coach saying the quiet part out loud. Every phrase sounded casual enough for a locker room, but together they mapped out exactly what Fever fans had been warning about, a pre-planned recruitment that stretched across multiple seasons.
Build a relationship a little bit. Unfortunately, she didn't.
For anyone who had followed Bonner's journey, Tibbetts' words confirmed that Phoenix hadn't just gotten lucky. This was years of pursuit. His tone carried that overconfident ease, like someone reminiscing about a plan finally coming together. To WNBA fans, it came across less like storytelling and more like a confession. When you say, "We've tried to get DB for 2 off-seasons," you're admitting contact or intent during times she was still contractually tied to another team. The league's collective bargaining rules don't allow for that kind of wiggle room. Unauthorized talks, back-channeling, or agreements outside of official free agency windows are banned for a reason. Under those rules, this looked like tampering in broad daylight. But what made the clip sting wasn't just the blatant nature of what he said, it was how casually he said it. No hesitation, no media filter kicking in, just a man beaming about finally closing a deal that had been years in the making. The stadium laughed, but outside, Fever fans weren't laughing. Online, the same people who had been dismissed as conspiracists suddenly had their proof. Someone clipped the footage, stripped it of context, and labeled it the WNBA's first public tampering clip. It spread within hours, jumping from fan accounts to highlight pages to national sports talk shows.
Honor over, which is how she scammed the Indiana Fever.
Comments flooded in, so they admit it. This is the Phoenix receipt. You don't joke like that if it didn't happen. The phrase Phoenix receipt stuck because it perfectly described what everyone saw, a public record of something that was supposed to stay behind closed doors. Then came the heavier discussions. Fans started pulling up screenshots from Bonner's brief stint in Indiana, her minimal public engagement, her distant body language on the bench, even moments during huddles where she seemed disconnected. Each new detail became another piece of the puzzle. Supporters connected every dot they could find, convinced that Phoenix knew they would get her no matter what Indiana offered. To them, this wasn't about basketball chemistry failing. It was about premeditation.
You guys already had a deal in place to bring DeWanna Bonner.
What made it worse was the connection with Alyssa Thomas. Everyone already knew she and Bonner were engaged, but when Tibbetts said, "I think that helped in that a little bit," it sounded like an inside wink. The subtext was impossible to miss. If Thomas, a star forward herself, played any role in convincing Bonner to leave Indiana, that blurred the line between personal loyalty and professional ethics. It's one thing to support your partner's career move. It's another if that support involves contact between teams that shouldn't be communicating. That gray area is exactly what tampering laws are meant to prevent. Even neutral analysts could see how bad it looked. When a coach openly ties his acquisition to a player on another roster's involvement, you're no longer speculating, you're confirming influence. Under the WNBA's rulebook, unauthorized interactions can trigger fines up to $1 million and even restrict future signings. But the league's silence only fueled more outrage. Why wasn't there an investigation? Why was it taking fan pressure to even start a conversation? For Fever supporters, it felt like confirmation of a double standard, one where certain teams play by their own rules while others pay the price.
Breaking the record for all-time scoring and getting on the list, whatever that record was.
Fans were furious. They had sacrificed time, structure, and development money to bring Bonner in. And if this footage was any indication, Phoenix had been quietly planning to snatch her from the start. By the time sports journalists joined the conversation, the clip had already defined the narrative. This wasn't a veteran choosing a new chapter. This was an orchestrated exit. Every word of Tibbetts' statement aligned perfectly with earlier rumors about Phoenix's multi-season pursuit. Those off-the-record whispers that insiders once brushed off now looked like careful groundwork. The optics were terrible. Phoenix positioned itself as the mastermind, Indiana as the mark. Tibbetts might have thought he was being charming, but in doing so, he handed fans the exact proof they'd been missing. 3 sentences undid every excuse about fit issues. The messy breakup between Bonner and the Fever suddenly looked less like misfortune and more like strategy. The video clip became shorthand for corruption, proof that Indiana hadn't been paranoid. They'd been played, and as Fever supporters kept replaying those words, third time's a charm, and that helped in that a little bit. They didn't just hear arrogance. They heard confirmation that all their frustration had been justified. Now they wanted answers, from a league suddenly very quiet about its own rulebook.
100% orchestrated and set up.
When the clip of Nate Tibbetts hit social media, the reaction was immediate. Fever fans flooded every platform, tagging the WNBA's official accounts, demanding an investigation, and asking how a team could openly brag about a multi-year pursuit of a player who had been under contract elsewhere. The comments ranged from disbelief to outright fury. Some called it collusion in plain sight, while others labeled DeWanna Bonner's exit the most obvious setup they'd ever seen. The sense of betrayal ran deep. Fans weren't just upset about losing a player. They were furious that Indiana had been played like a pawn. Every time someone replayed Tibbets's grin, the resentment grew louder, and the pattern became too obvious to ignore. The structure of what fans started calling a max deal heist was simple but infuriating. Phoenix ended up with a star without trading assets, spending picks or sacrificing cap space, while Indiana lost both salary flexibility and a chunk of its locker room chemistry. As one user put it on X, the Mercury were never able to afford DB on a max deal in the summer. Now she gets her max from Indy for 40% of the season, then plays for Phoenix and barely loses a cent. That one comment summed up the mood perfectly. It felt like Phoenix had gamed the system, letting Indiana handle the money in the minutes before swooping in once the heavy lifting was done. Everyone could agree on one thing: the Fever got burned.
I definitely orchestrated this thing. This is one.
The anger also stemmed from how hard Indiana had worked to build something from scratch. With Caitlin Clark pushing the pace and Aaliyah Boston anchoring the paint, the Fever's system finally had direction. Their offense was faster, louder, and more exciting to watch. Fans were starting to see flashes of real progress. Then came DeWanna Bonner, a veteran with championship rings, who was supposed to elevate that system, not derail it. Instead, her half-hearted play and abrupt departure threw off rotations and cast a shadow over what had been promising chemistry. Younger players lost momentum, lineups were shuffled, and the coaching staff was left patching holes mid-season. From the Fever's perspective, the entire project stalled because someone in another city had been making plans behind the curtain. Phoenix, on the other hand, looked like they'd pulled off a robbery. From Brittany Griner to Diana Taurasi, the Mercury have always been known for stockpiling experience. And after adding Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali, bringing Bonner back into that environment created yet another veteran-heavy lineup.
Breaking the record for all-time scoring and getting on the list, whatever that record was.
While Indiana was left looking like developmental fodder. For many Fever fans, this deepened the sense of unfairness that already defines smaller market teams in the league. Big-name franchises seem to get away with bending the unwritten rules whenever it benefits them. So when Tibbets's voice cracked through that mic, confirming what felt like recruitment long before the trade officially happened, those fears turned into resentment. The idea that Phoenix could operate like a closed circle, selective, entitled and smug about it, hit a nerve.
What do you mean? We celebrated you.
As the debate spiraled online, Bonner's play became the easiest target. Fans began recycling old highlights from last season, mixing them with clips of her lackluster minutes in Indiana. Declining, one caption read. Washed, said another. But the frustration wasn't just about performance. It was about attitude. The same player who had been hyped as a mentor looked uninterested, detached, and almost eager to move on. Some speculated that she had underperformed on purpose, citing an online rumor claiming she was saving herself for Phoenix's system. Whether true or not, the perception stuck. The Fever had put their trust in someone who already had one foot out the door. And yet, something unexpected happened. Instead of falling apart, the fan base came together. Indiana supporters embraced the narrative of being the team that gets underestimated, but keeps showing up anyway. Clark, Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Sophie Cunningham, and Lexi Hull became the core names fans rallied around. Symbols of loyalty, growth, and determination to build.
Didn't appreciate you, and this and that.
Even though Fever supporters never got official closure from the league, the scandal ended up clarifying what kind of franchise they wanted to be. Not one chasing shortcuts or lured by overhyped veterans, but one powered by loyalty, accountability, and Connect to the Mercury could keep their headlines. Indiana was busy turning betrayal into fuel, and now, every highlight from Caitlin Clark or Aaliyah Boston feels like its own rebuttal to everything Phoenix thought it could take. This isn't scandal fatigue, it's ignition. The moment Indiana stopped waiting for respect and started earning it, one possession at a time. Phoenix might have scored a short-term victory, but Indiana holds the lasting momentum. The Fever's young core is built on talent that can't be bought or borrowed. It's earned through every grinded-out possession. That's the difference between building hype and building history. So if you're tired of watching privilege win on technicalities, demand an investigation into Phoenix. Do you think Phoenix and Bonner should be investigated? Let us know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we'll see you in the next one.